Hi guys, so in this video we're going to go further with our joint testing and we're going to, like we mentioned last time, test this in some softwoods, and we're also going to look at it using comparing the different performance of using metal, which is very interesting. The results of that were interesting. So yeah, we'll jump back out and we'll have a look at that. Just another side note, based on from the feedback from the last video, and one thing I didn't mention last time is we're testing this mortise and tenon joint in straight tension, which you're never going to, it's in a building, and generally all these joints are designed in compression. So the test we're doing here is mostly to see how strong our joints are in the opposite sort of direction of how they're normally designed. So, you know, in the situation of wind loadings and that sort of thing, just to see how much our joints can usually withhold. Where in a building that we do have tension loads, that's where we would actually be using different sorts of joints. So we have specific sort of tension joints that we would use there, and these are, they often involve dovetails and wedges and much bigger pegs and things like that. So this standard joint that we're testing here is our normal compression joint. So you could imagine how strong it is in compression, and we're actually testing it in reverse. So we're testing it in tension, basically to see how strong it is at resisting wind loads, and even, I guess, when it comes to installing our frames, we're often craning things into position where we might be putting some reverse loadings on our joints. So seeing how much our joints can actually withhold when we're lifting them into place is interesting too. So yeah, so we're going back out. We're going to test the same joints but using softwood and see how the results go. So let's go and have a look. So this time we've gone for a ropey old bit of radiata pine, typical plantation pine, 200 by 200, everything's the same, joints the same. We've still got a spotted gum hardwood peg, but the rest of the joints the same. So we're going to see how this one goes. But we've got a fair bit of force on there, like the jack's not far off capacity, would you say? Yeah,
still about 80.
Yeah. So the joint, you can see, is opening up, but again, we can hear some slight groaning, but there's no actual fade. We've got flexibility, and we're at fairly good.
I think this jack is at capacity, really.
Jack's pretty much at capacity. We haven't broken the joint yet, but it has definitely flexibility. So let's have a look inside that and see what's happened so far. So there's no damage on the tenon yet. Mortise member's not doing anything, so we opened up a fair bit, but we hadn't actually, nothing has failed. So again, flexibility but no breakage as yet, but we'll keep on cranking. So these bad boys are our sort of framing pins. They're nothing particularly fancy, they're just mild steel, just T-podgers. We normally use them in a frame so we can pull them out during construction before we put the hardwood pegs in there. But yeah, in this case, we're going to see what happens. We're not likely to bend the peg, surely. Surely we'll break the tenon or the mortise or something will give. So yeah, let's see what happens. Interestingly so far, like with the difference between the softwood framing members and the hardwood, we didn't see a great deal of difference in the performance of the actual mortise and tenon. Again, it seems to have been just the pegs that are bearing the brunt of the load here. And again, like with this one from the last go, it hasn't really snapped completely. It's sort of started to fracture a little bit, but look at the shape it's taken. Like, it's really distorted. But that's the beauty of the peg, is it's just taking so much force. So the quality of the timber in your pegs is so vitally important. Anyway, let's see what happens with the podgers. I hear cracking. Sounds like wood.
let's have a look at that. The joint is definitely failed. We can't hear anything anymore. I'd say the tenon's gone. But we'll pull that apart. We'll have a look. There's your problem. So clearly, in that piece, the mortise member was pretty strong, but obviously we've got this sort of nice piece of metal that's just sheared its way through the soft tenon. So again, this is a piece of radiata pine, very soft timber. If we did this Podger experiment in the hardwood, like we may well have, the tenon might have survived, but the mortise member probably would have just sheared off. But clearly, the peg was the weak point in the normal joints, but when you add metal to the situation, something's got to give. So interesting. So I'd say with this joint, when we've used the Podger, like that, this is always one of the really important things about using a peg. Like the Podger didn't make that joint any stronger. So, if you were to say, oh, let's just bolt all our joints together, well, because we're introducing something that doesn't have any flex, what we've done is we've just wrecked our tenon. The Podger didn't break, but it didn't recreate a joint that was any stronger. With the joints previously, especially the hardwood joint, we pulled that apart. We had a couple of broken pegs, but we put the joint back together, put a couple of fresh pegs in there. The joint was as good as new. The same with this. On the first break, when we did it with the peg, the joint had flexed open like 25 mil, but it was just the peg that had broken. So we could have, in theory, put that back together, new peg. The cyclone's just blown out to sea. We just go around and put a couple of new pegs in it. The building would be as good as gold. So the flexibility of not only your framing timbers, but the framing pegs is where all of your strength is going to come from. So anyway, that's an interesting experiment. We can clearly see that these simple mortise and tenon joints, like nothing but a few pieces of timber, that can be just so incredibly strong when they're well made and well designed and used. We've had 4 tons basically of weight. So that's pretty much, we could set this up in reverse and I could bolt this to the roof of the shed over there and hang my Land Cruiser from it. And it would hold, this one little joint would be able to hold a full 4-wheel drive. So interesting to think about. We're going to take these sort of calculations and break them down, and we can use that within our engineering for our frames. And it's just, really goes to show just the strength and the sort of beauty of timber, really. So happy days.